Today everyone will be reporting about Gerry Lanuza history about the constitution of the self, starting with the first topic, which is the self as product of modern society. Walt Whitman once said in Song of Myself, "Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes," which means that he say or believe different things, but that's okay because he is complex and have many different aspects of who he is. While in Marx's letter of Engels 1844, what is true to in its principle we do not accept, and what is true is that before we can be active in any cause, we must make it at our own egoistic cause, and that in this sense, quite apart from any material considerations, we are communists in virtue of our egoism, that out of the egoism we want to be human beings and not merely individuals. Which means that we should follow what aligns with our principles. The idea is that before supporting any cause, we should personally believe in it and connect with it for our own reasons. In a way, it says that even though we might act for our own interests, choosing to be a part of something bigger makes us better as humans, not just individuals. According to Clifford Geertz, 1974, the notions of selfhood and individualism are peculiar to modern Western culture, which means that the ideas of being your own person and doing your own thing are special to the way people think in modern Western societies like the US and Europe. It's like a way of thinking that focuses on each person being unique and doing things independently. For example, in some places, people think it's important to be unique and do things on your own. Well, according to Simon 1971, the struggle for one's individuality is only possible in modern society, where religious theological traditions are gradually replaced with rational and scientific calculations, and the intimate personal affiliations are replaced by exceedingly impersonal associations brought about by organized way of life. Which means that in today's world, people can express themselves and be unique because we focus more on science and reason instead of old religious traditions. Also, personal connections are becoming less close because of city living, where things are busier and less personal. For example, today, people often make choices based on reason and science rather than religious rules, like deciding a job or lifestyle. And according to Mannheim 1950, modernization or destruction of the traditional way of life delocalizes self, that is, the self is dissociated and deracinated from its traditional attachment to the community. There is nowhere more vividly demonstrated than in the modern notion of love and intimate relationship. Which means that when things become modern and old traditions change or go away, people might feel like they're not connected to the community anymore. This is specifically clear in how people feel love and close relationships today. For example, today people decide to love more independently, moving away from traditional community expectations. In modern societies, the stability of one's self-identity is no longer anchored on pre-given traditional bound definitions. It is now freely chosen. This modern individualistic psychology favors the model of the self-mode individual over and against the Christian model of Adam, created by God with complete faculties, according to Porter, 1977. According to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century Romantic French philosopher, the birth of modern individualism also created a problem for modern individuals. While Marshall Berman, 1972, states that the problem of individualization in the early modern society by discussing Rousseau's own attempt of self-diagnosis and self-authenticity. Which means that in today's society, your sense of who you are is not tied to traditional expectations. Instead, you have the freedom to choose your own identity. This shift from being defined by traditions is different from the old Christian idea of Adam, who was created by God with all his qualities. However, this newfound freedom also brings challenges, as seen in the struggles of thinkers like Rousseau, who grappled with figuring out his own identity in the changing world of the 18th century. For example, imagine growing up in a town where everyone expects you to follow certain traditions. Now, it's like moving to a new city where you can decide your own path. This is similar to how modern individuals shape their identities, unlike the traditional idea of being like Adam from the Bible. But just like some adjusting to city life, this freedom brings its own set of challenges, as philosophers like Rousseau face in understanding themselves in rapidly changing society. We have the self as a necessary fiction. Modern notion of self as having a continuous identity either through memory or physical continuity, which means that today many philosophers doubt the idea that our sense of self is constantly connected through memory or physical injury. For example, sometimes people remember things they have never actually experienced, or they can forget everything due to a serious brain injury. Some modern philosophers do not believe that the self is a solid or a metaphysical entity. There is nothing in the self, contrary to what humanists and romantics believe, that persists or endures through time, which means that some philosophers think that the idea of the lasting self is made up. They say there's nothing solid about it, unlike what some people believe. For example, it's like saying a cloud stays the same shape forever, when really it's always changing. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, states that cheating self-improvement is like an art form. For example, think of someone who wants to change their habits. If they believe they have a fixed self, they might feel stuck or unable to change. But if they see themselves as constantly evolving like an artist refining their craft, they can approach self-improvement with more flexibility and creativity. Nietzsche, like some skeptical philosophers, also dismiss the metaphysical fiction of the self prevalent during this time. For Nietzsche, the self, just like any substance, is just the sum of all its effects, the individual's actions, thoughts, and feelings. According to Nehemiah's 1985. Nietzsche, 1964, also supposes that the self is nothing more than a metaphor that is invoked to understand the cause of human actions. Which means that Nietzsche, along with some skeptical philosophers, reject the idea of a solid metaphysical self. He saw the self as just a sum of a person's actions, thoughts, and feelings, so there's no real substance behind what people do, just a collection of their behaviors. As like saying the self is just a label we use to explain why people act the way we do. For example, think of a friend who's always kind and helpful. Nietzsche would say their identity is not a fixed thing. Instead, it's just a way to describe how they act and feel, so their self is more about their actions than some hidden essence. The substance behind the action called ego is necessary to impute moral responsibility to actors. A true given self is not what unifies these diverse experiences, but it is the presumed unity of these experiences. The postmodern problem of the self, according to Foucault 1970, is the self is seen as a product of modern discord that is socially and historically conditioned, which means that today, people argue about what makes up our self and identity. Some say this is support of who we are, but others, like postmodernists, disagree. They think our sense of self is shaped by society and history, not something innate. It's like saying who you are is influenced by the world around you, not just by your own thoughts and feelings. For example, think of it like this. Imagine you're a puzzle piece. Some people believe there's a specific shape that defines you, like a core, but others think you're more like a clay that's molded by the environment and people around you. According to Burr in 1999, the South is turned into a complex narrative accomplishment suffused with discourses. It is a text rewritten and written from moment to moment according to the demands of a multitude of social contexts. Which means that social constructionists like Michael Foucault don't see the self as a single thing. Instead, they see the story shaped by the different situations we're in. It's like our identity is a book being written and rewritten as we go through life, influenced by the world around us. For example, imagine you're at school, where you act as a diligent student, but when you're with your friends, you're more laid back and fun-loving. Each situation adds a new character to your own identity book, showing different sides of yourself depending on the context. So just like a story, your identity is shaped by the situations you find yourself in. Which means that in today's world, the self faces new challenges because of the rise of online interactions and technology. These virtual interactions disconnect us from the usual limits of time and space. Just like our identity is being transformed into digital form when we're online. Postmodern selves or coping selves that assume multiple and continuously shifting identities. Thus, the postmodern self can be partly described as a saturated self, according to Churchill 1991, and or a pluralized self, according to Rappaport, Baumgartner, and Wu 1999. Which means that in today's world, people don't stick to one sort of identity. Instead, they switch between different roles and identities. This idea of having many selves is called a saturated self or a pluralized self. It's a contrast to the whole idea of having just one true self like those who believe. For instance, someone when actively at work, with family and with friends, showing different aspects of themselves in each situation. For example, think of a person named John. At birth, he's focused and professional, but when he's with his family, he's caring and nurturing. This spread, he's outgoing and adventurous. Each role brings out a different side of John, showing how he has multiple selves depending on the situation. In moments, this modern problem of identity was how to construct an identity and keep it solid and stable. The postmodern problem of the identity is probably how to avoid fixation and keep the options open. In the case of identity, the catchword of modernity was creation. The catchword of postmodernity is recycling. Which means that Bowman says that while in the past people tried to build a solid identity, today's challenge is to avoid getting stuck and keep things flexible. In modern times, the focus was on creating your identity, but in today's postmodern world, it's more about changing and adapting like recycling. For example, the essay Virtual Painting Virtual Love compares postmodern identity to our Tamagotchi toys, suggesting that our identities today can feel superficial and constantly changing like a toy that needs constant attention.
The concept of the self is not an inherent, fixed entity, but rather a product of social interactions and cultural influences. Ram Harris' perspectives emphasizes the socially constructed nature of the self, likening it to a Cartesian ego without a substantial core. According to her, the self is manifested through perceptions, feelings, and beliefs, which are influenced by societal norms and interactions. This view aligns with postmodernist ideologies, rejecting the notion of a core self, and highlighting the fictional and theoretical status of the self. George Herbert Mead's analysis, on the other hand, further elucidates the process of self construction within social contexts. Mead posits that the self is acquired socially through language like symbols and the assumption of roles and perspectives of significant others. This process, known as socialization, primarily occurs within the family unit and gradually shapes an individual's self awareness and identity formation. While individuals are shaped by socialization processes, they are not passive recipients of societal influences. Self constitution involves freeing oneself from imposed self images and renegotiating one's identity. Marcel Proust's Remembrance of Things Past serves as an illustrative example wherein Proust recontextualizes his past experiences and conceptualizes his relationships with authority figures, leading to a deeper understanding of self. Moreover, individuals actively engage in negotiation processes to define and redefine their identities. The negotiation involves a dialectical interplay between self creation and the contingencies of selfhood, while individuals have agency in shaping their identities. There are also limitations imposed by institutional contexts and societal norms, as evidenced in various institutional embodiments of the self discussed in the previous essays. The concept of self unity, according to Nietzsche, is not something inherent but rather a grand and rare art that individuals must consciously craft. His philosophy emphasizes the transformative process of self fashioning, where weaknesses are reinterpreted into strengths and the ugly is concealed within aesthetic contours. This perspective suggests that individuals have the urgency to cultivate themselves into beautiful works of art through conscious effort and creativity. Richard Rorty, on one hand, expands on Nietzsche's idea by introducing the notion of the ironist who uses existing metaphors in new and radical ways to construct narratives of self creation. Autobiography, for Rorty, becomes a medium through which individuals express the uniqueness of their personal narratives, drawing the diverse sources to weave a coherent whole. Narratives, according to Rorty, not only express self creation but also embed individuals with a symbolic world, allowing for continuous reconstruction of the self. Catherine Bateson's perspective further enriches the concept of self creation by proposing that life is not a linear journey but rather a work in progress. Bateson challenges the conventional notion of a predetermined path, emphasizing the value of detours and improvisations in shaping the evolving self. According to Bateson, every experience contributes to the ongoing process of self invention, highlighting the dynamic and transformative nature of the personal growth. In reconciling with the past, individuals engage in the act of redescribing the self, allowing for a reinterpretation of past experiences and a deliberate shaping of future narratives. This process, as exemplified in the account of Confessions of a Fratman, empowers individuals to reclaim agency over their identities by reframing past experiences with broader context. By embracing the idea that identities are not fixed but constantly evolving, individuals gain the freedom to forgive their past and envision alternative futures. The context of self creation and collective identity underscores the intricate relationship between individual agency and societal influences. The self is intricately bound within space and time, shaped by corporeal embodiment and historical contexts. Memory and forgetting serve as powerful tools for self recreation, allowing individuals to navigate their past and present identities. Moreover, self creation occurs within the context of the imagined community, where shared cultural traditions and social institutions shape individual narratives. National identity plays a significant role in this process, highlighting the interplay between individual and collective narratives. However, self creation also emphasizes the diversity within communities, stressing cultural recognition and democratic tolerance. Ultimately, unhampered self creation necessitates equal access to resources and minimal external interventions, linking individual agency with broader social transformations. Self creation entails navigating inherited expectations and societal scripts while asserting autonomy in individuality. Individuals grapple with unalterable circumstances such as racial and ethnic identities and must learn to reconcile themselves with such necessary realities. Advice of Nietzsche to hide ugly part of one's nature under artistic craftsmanship is illustrated in the essay of Fathers and Sons, where the author skillfully redescribes his relationship with his late father and intertwines it with his relationship with his son. This process involves resisting cultural norms and personal contingencies, as individuals rewrite their narratives infinitely in pursuit of self realization. The struggle for cultural recognition encompasses navigating familial and societal expectations while forging one's path or own path and asserting one's unique identity.
Lastly, we have beyond self-creation. After all the social responsibilities of the individual is subtracted from his self-creation, there remains the private space that is open for individuals to pursue their idiosyncratic fantasies and engage in continuous self-redescription. This private self that Richard Rorty talks about in his contingency, irony, and solidarity. It is here that we are most free to poetically reimagine ourselves without any need for any moral or philosophical justification for doing so, just like what Marcel Proust, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Sigmund Freud did to their lives and contemporaries. Which means that the idea of a private self where individuals have the freedom to explore their unique interests and reinvent themselves without worrying about societal expectations or moral justifications. This concept described by Richard Rorty allows people to creatively imagine versions of themselves, similar to how famous figures like Marcel Proust, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Sigmund Freud did in their lives and writings. It's like having a personal space where individuals can freely express and discover who they are without any external pressures. For example, picture someone is busy with work and family, but in their spare time they paint, creating lets them freely express their thoughts and feelings without worrying about what others think. It's like a personal journey where they explore different parts of themselves, similar to how famous thinkers did based on their own ideas. Nietzsche, Zarathustra would have just scorned people who asked such a silly question. For one thing is needed to give style to one's life, and each one was capable of making her own solution. Which means that challenge is how to balance creating our own identity with fitting into society. Nietzsche, Zarathustra would probably dismiss the question, saying what matters is giving our lives style and making our own mark. It's up to each person to decide what's right for them. There's no universal standard. What's important is that we follow our own tastes and preferences. For example, consider someone who loves to decorate their home. Instead of following trends, they prefer to create their own style, making different colors and patterns reflect their personality. This shows how individuals can find fulfillment by expressing themselves in their own unique way, rather than conforming to societal expectation. Here we have the key points. First, self-identity is a product of one society it aroused out of dissolution of traditional values and communities. However, the problem of self is complicated by the new social cultural sensibilities of postmodernity. The self as a social construct and as a product of socialization remains a necessary fiction. We have the project of self-creation still remains embedded contingently within imagined communities. These communities simultaneously fractured and integrated, along with the axes of gender and sex, class, race, religion, and ethnicity, provide the immense reservoir for constructing narratives of the self. The self constantly lives in the paradox to pursue self-creation within given, not willfully chosen social circumstances. In summary, our search for who we are comes from change, shifts in society. Traditional values have faded, leading to a more complex quest for self-identity. The self-shaped by society helps us live sensibly, even if it's not entirely real. Technology and globalization also affect how we see ourselves. Despite these changes, our identity is still tied to the communities we imagine ourselves in, shaped by factors like gender, class, race. So while we try to shape our identity, we're also influenced by the world around us. For example, think of someone who grows up in a diverse neighborhood. They might celebrate different holidays and speak multiple languages at home. As they grow, they embrace these various cultural influences, shaping their identity. The Self-As Project. The passage discusses the proliferation of self-improvement literature and the trend of individuals seeking to master their own lives through expert knowledge. It explores the concept of flexibility, where individuals believe that they can reinvent themselves and control their destinies in a rapidly changing world. However, it also highlights the limitations and pitfalls of excessive self-awareness, such as hypochondria. The author reflects on the value of self-awareness and self-creation, citing advice from a mentor to embark on a journey of self-discovery at 50. This journey is not just a physical travel, but also a deeper exploration of oneself.
The context of Bloody Man and other metaphors delves into the intricacies of life's unpredictability through various literary and metaphorical lenses. Wendy Cope's poem humorously captures the whimsical nature of relationships, while Mary Catherine Bateson expands on the metaphor of life as a journey, emphasizing the value of detours and improvisations. Bateson's comparison of life to making a meal underscores the richness and unpredictability of experiences. Overall, the exploration of these metaphors offers insight into the fluidity and creativity inherent in navigating life's uncertainties.
A chance at rebirth. The passage discusses the quest for self-improvement and renewal, exploring the concept of reflexivity and late modernity. It reflects on the proliferation of self-help literature and the belief in the ability of individuals to reinvent themselves through expert knowledge. The text highlights the limitations of excessive self-awareness and the importance of self-acceptance and forgiveness. It emphasizes the value of self-understanding and self-creation through introspection, writing, and exposure to different cultures. The passage suggests that identities are not fixed truths, but are continuously reconstructed and reconstructed throughout life. It concludes by acknowledging the ongoing process of self-redescription and the opportunity for renewal it offers, emphasizing the importance of embracing life's uncertainties and complexities. Summing up a life, the passage reflects on the challenges and introspection that come with midlife as experienced by the author and others. It explores the desire for self-understanding and the struggle to reconcile one's identity with societal expectations. The author grapples with the notion of embarking on a journey of self-discovery, seeking to understand what makes the life unique and how to make it meaningful. Reference to literature, philosophy, and personal anecdotes illustrate the complexity of this endeavor. Ultimately, the passage emphasizes the importance of self-reflection and the ongoing search for new perspective and understanding throughout life. Fathers and sons. The passage explores the complex relationship between fathers and sons, highlighting how sons often seek validation and guidance from fathers throughout their lives. It contrasts Western and traditional cultural expectations regarding father-son dynamics. The text discusses the lasting influence fathers have on their sons even into adulthood, and the burden sons carry to meet the qualifications. Personal anecdotes illustrate the author's own reflections on fatherhood and the interplay between autonomy and loyalty in father-son dynamics such relationship. Ultimately, the passage emphasizes the importance of self-reflection and the potential for fathers and to positively influence their sons' lives.
Confessions of a Fratman provides insight into the author's journey of self discovery and the complexities of fraternity life at the University of the Philippines. Initially, apprehensive due to parental warnings and the negative reputation of fraternities, the author eventually joins Alpha Sigma fraternity out of curiosity and a desire for autonomy. The narrative highlights the significance of fraternity membership in shaping personal identity and university experience. Additionally, it explores the dual nature of fraternities as preservers of tradition and potential sources of both leadership and conflict. Ultimately, the narrative calls for a nuanced approach to addressing the challenges posed by fraternities, emphasizing the role of alumni in fostering responsible behavior and preserving the fraternity's legacy. Dark Threads of Human Behavior delves into the perplexing nature of human actions, citing examples such as Leo Echegaray's heinous crime and Bill Clinton's scandal as illustrations of the complexity of human behavior. Despite efforts to comprehend these actions, their motives often elude to us, leading to a self deception and moral confusion. The response to such behavior varies, however, with some advocating for understanding and therapy, while others call for punishment and justice. However, the narrative urges caution in judgment, emphasizing the need to recognize our shared capacity for both virtue and immorality. Ultimately, it prompts reflection on the enigmatic nature of human behavior and the importance of humility in understanding it. The Dark Threads of Human Behavior delves into the perplexing nature of human actions, citing examples such as Leo Echegaray's heinous crime and Bill Clinton's scandal as illustrations of the complexity of human behavior. Despite efforts to comprehend these actions, their motives often elude to us, leading to a self deception and moral confusion. The response to such behavior varies, however, with some advocating for understanding and therapy, while others call for punishment and justice. However, the narrative urges caution in judgment, emphasizing the need to recognize our shared capacity for both virtue and immorality. Ultimately, it prompts reflection on the enigmatic nature of human behavior and the importance of humility in understanding it. Lola Juanita's catharsis highlights the transformative power of sharing traumatic experiences. In this narrative, this exposes the horrors endured by Filipino women during the Japanese occupation, prompting her to break decades of silence and join Lila to advocate for justice. Similar to Lola Juanita, Dr. Jose V. Abueva and the Endriga family seek catharsis through remembrance and storytelling, which confronts the painful memories of wartime atrocities. Their narratives underscore the importance of acknowledging and documenting the human cost of war for future generations.
Immigrants from the past. The text discusses the importance of family photographs as a means of preserving memories and connecting with the past. It recounts personal experiences of individuals who prioritize saving family albums during disasters and illness, highlighting the fundamental value attached to these images. The author reflects on the significance of both photographs and understanding the personal cultural histories, emphasizing their role in shaping narratives of identity and memory. They also discussed academic interests in old photographs and their interpretations as tools for reconstructing historical narratives. Additionally, the text touches on the theme of education as a prominent aspect of family life, as reflected in the abundance of school-related photographs and personal albums. The author concludes by underscoring the enduring value of family photographs as exemplified by their continued preservation despite changing circumstances. Geography and memory. The passage recounts as a journey to Bataan to retrace a path of death march with an elderly veteran and reflects on the impact of geography and memory as the veteran struggles to reconcile his wartime experiences with a changed landscape. Despite the effort to recreate historical locations, discrepancies arise between memory and reality, highlights the challenge of preserving the past in the face of environmental degradation and urban development. Ultimately, the expedition serves as a exploration at the intersection between personal memory and collective history.
Memories on Lahar Land encapsulates the profound impact of Mount Pinatubo's eruption and subsequent lahars on the province of Pampanga. The narrative describes the destruction of familiar landmarks and the displacement of communities, which highlights the indiscriminate nature of the disaster. It also prompts reflection on the transient nature of human meaning in the face of nature's indifference, urging a rejection of the interpretations of natural disasters as divine punishment. Instead, it advocates for focusing on rebuilding lives and communities on the altered landscape, which offers a message for resilience and hope amidst devastation and destruction. The narrative of self respect and national pride underscores the significance of maintaining dignity and pride both on an individual and national level in the face of disrespectful treatment. Cynthia Nogales Lumbera's experience at the U.S. Embassy exemplifies the struggle individuals may face when confronted with insulting behavior from consular officials during visa applications. Despite being granted with a visa, Lumbera's refusal to tolerate disrespect reflects the importance of upholding self respect and national pride. This narrative serves as a reminder of the broader issue of how individuals from certain countries may be unfairly treated and perceived by consular officials. Upholding self respect and national pride is crucial not only for demanding respectful treatment but also for challenging unjust practices and perceptions.
Thoughts on Father's Day. The text describes a parent's reflection on the challenges of parenting as children grow into adulthood. It explores the complexities of maintaining relationships with both children, particularly in modern society where traditional family dynamics may clash with individual autonomy. The author discusses the significance of designated days like Mother's Day and Father's Day in easing the awkwardness of expressing affection and reconnecting with parents. These days offer opportunities for children to show appreciations and bridge the gap created by busy lives and evolving relationships. Furthermore, the author acknowledges the difficulty of letting go as children become adults despite intellectually understanding the need for independence. Emotionally detaching from parental rule can be challenging. The author realizes that children's increasing self-reliance may inadvertently create distance, emphasizing the importance of children affirming their continued love and respect for their parents.
The narrative highlights the complex role of fraternities in student culture. Despite controversy surrounding hazing and violence, fraternities persist due to their perceived value and fulfilling real needs of students, such as providing a sense of belongingness and connection. They operate independently of school recognition, relying on alumni networks and prestigious traditions to sustain their existence. While voluntary, fraternity initiations often involve rigorous screening and hazing rituals, viewed as rites of passage to adulthood. The challenge for institutions is not in banning fraternities outright, but in providing alternative affiliations that offer similar benefits without the associated risks. The story offers insights into the nature of prisons, particularly through the lens of a visit to New Bilibid prison. It highlights how prisons serve as microcosm of society's past decade, incarcerating individuals involved in high profile cases. Despite the rhetoric of reform and rehabilitation, prisons often fall short in addressing the underlying causes of crime and punishment. Modern prisons, however, exemplified by New Bilibid Prison, have shifted away from labor as a form of punishment towards a regime of idleness. This reflects a broader evolution in punishment philosophy, as articulated by Michel Foucault. According to Foucault, modern prisons aim to produce docile bodies through segmentation, discipline, and surveillance rather than focusing solely on physical punishment. Understanding the dynamics of prison, including their disciplinary techniques and societal implications, is crucial for addressing issues of crime, punishment, and rehabilitation in a contemporary. Explores the phenomenon of medicalization, wherein society places excessive emphasis on hospitalization and medical intervention. Patients are often viewed through the narrow lens of their illnesses, neglecting their holistic well being. This narrative or story illustrates the tension between medical intervention and the body's natural healing processes. The concept of the wisdom of the body challenges the prevailing paradigm of modern medicine by suggesting that the body is capable of detecting and healing its own deficiencies. However, in a medicalized society, such views are often dismissed in favor of aggressive medical treatments. Hence, the story underscores the importance of considering patients as complete individuals rather than mere collections of organs or ailments. This prompts reflection on the potential consequences of excessive medicalization and the need for a more balanced approach to healthcare that respect the body's innate healing ability.
Email and memory. The passage explores the evolution of communication technology and its impact on privacy, memory, insight, and words. It begins with a personal anecdote about maintaining privacy through various communication methods and delves into a Filipino futuristic story about a comprehensive database of human knowledge. It discusses the real-world development of archiving, websites like the Archivist, and the potential misuse of personal data. The passage also examines the implications of electronic communication and privacy rights, citing Simon de Beauvoir letters as an example. Jacques Derrida's perception on the transformative effect of email on public and private spaces is highlighted, along with Proust's concept of memory and forgetting. The passage concludes by discussing Derrida's view on the political implications of control over archives and memory access. Next is virtual pain and virtual love. The text talks about the new trend where people listen to voice messages from strangers, sharing their personal struggles and emotions. The writer's daughter and her friends found it amusing at first, but then realized the pain was genuine. They wanted to comfort the person who left the message, letting them know they're not alone. It compares this to a toy called Tamagotchi, which needs constant care and attention to stay alive. This story simulates the experience of having a pet, but without real-life challenges. The writer questions whether these virtual experiences could truly replace real-life connections and emotions. Overall, the text reflects our modern tendency to seek stimulated experiences instead of real ones, and how these affects our relationships and understanding of life. Vernacular gifts. The passage reflects on the significance of personalized gifts in an increasingly commercialized world. It begins with an anecdote about a priest who gives personally packed rice to his family and emphasizes the intimate knowledge of its origin. It discusses modern consumerism's alienation of producers and food surgeons of interest in locally sourced artisanal products. The text highlights a shift towards valuing cultural uniqueness and traditional goods over mass-produced items. It concludes by urging self-reliance in the face of economic challenges and anticipates a return to locally sourced Christmas fare. Overall, the passage emphasizes the importance of personal connection and authenticity in gift giving and consumption.